The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. I am Joseph. Our passion transforms a community that sees all things new. I am Joseph Sylvester, and I'm streaming live from Parañaque City. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to No Code Barrier. Get started today with Blockchain Season 1, Episode 8 on TNC. All right, welcome back. It's great to be back here again. Okay, so for today's episode, we are going to talk about No Code Barrier. Get started today with blockchain. So if we can share my screen. All right, thank you. All right, so for today's show, we're just going to go over one of the top questions in a lot of the NFT groups here in the Philippines, especially internationally. It's the idea of people have an idea of blockchain. They want to tokenize their projects, but they don't know usually where to start. They kind of just understand maybe OpenSea, Rarible, things like that, directly to a platform such as those. However, it can go a lot further than that. So what I want to discuss today is if, growing your own blockchain project with zero coding in Web3. We'll also discuss choosing the right blockchain and platform for zero coding. And also we're going to do a live checklist, so to speak, in terms of building out, let's say, a make-believe project for today's show. We're going to understand our project's ecosystem. We're going to understand your tech stack, your marketing stack, and determining if this works for you. Now, let's preface today's show by understanding what took place years ago, right after the dot-com boom. What we understand is that platforms such as WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, they all offered services for users, companies as well, to build websites really quickly versus building it from scratch. Basically, if you're into website building, you probably understand HTML code, CSS, and other advanced frameworks. But the idea of website building years ago had this mentality using plug and play. You can build a website fast. It was really great for individuals, small teams, Kickstarter companies to do e-commerce websites really quickly because of a lot of plugins, especially if you were using WordPress. But that also trickles down to other website platforms. Okay, this also includes websites that you want to build if you are, doing blog articles. However, when Web3 was introduced, a lot of the platforms really didn't provide any support for blockchain. Now, certain websites may have provided certain plugins, for example, WordPress, to connect to MetaMask. or maybe Wix as well. However, in terms of full functionality, it wasn't there, because when we talk about a whole bunch of other things with building out let's say, a NFT storefront, there is a lot of connection logic to the blockchain involved. And on a lot of the websites out there, for example, what you see on your screen, don't really support it fully. Okay. Now, when we talk about no code, we're actually talking about a term out there called zero code or zero coding. And for this episode, we're going to apply it to Web3. So basically, zero coding in Web3 takes the idea of what, let's say, sites like Foursquare, Wix, Weebly, so on and so forth, where people can build websites faster. And now we're applying it more to the Web3 aspect. So what is zero coding? Okay. Zero coding is basically the ability for a user to not focus on building core programming code. In this case, the platform takes care of the following. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about Web3 and blockchain. So a zero code platform will take care of the smart contract code, the website code, the connection logic, which is usually your MetaMask connection most of the time. And of course, you have the database. Now, anybody who's been in IT or has done programming is very knowledgeable at this. It does take time to set up. Okay. However, with zero code platforms, it allows users to focus on things that are relevant, utilizing users' known knowledge. For example, a majority of us here as an audience, we understand that, we can write things. I mean, we can write emails, we can write reviews, so we know how to write. So that can be that energy can be placed towards writing articles. Or if you're a business or an individual with some kind of product, or in this case, since we're talking about blockchain NFTs, maybe you have some kind of art or some kind of service that you provide. Okay. Other things out there as well, especially when you're doing your own project, you want to start growing your audience. Okay. Next, you want to do website building, but not doing core code, because that takes time. It's the idea of this plug and play mentality. If there's a header, what do I want to call the header? If there is a description, what do I want to call the description? So on and so forth. It is this idea of taking the idea of what took place in Web 2.0, again with the platforms I mentioned earlier, and now we're going to apply it to Web 3.0. Okay. So now, why zero coding in blockchain and Web 3? Now, I've been in the blockchain space for a little bit over four or 5 years now. What I'm noticing with zero coding in blockchain Web3, coming from the aspect of building something from scratch, meaning you have to deal with the front end, the connection logic, and smart contracts, zero coding platforms allow you to build faster, like really fast. And I'll explain the concept of what I mean by really fast in the later slides. It allows users to focus on essentials first. So for example, the essentials would be refining the product, getting that feedback in, and making the product better. Okay. And of course, marketing the product. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have to worry about code and infrastructure such as databases, things like that. And that takes a while to set up. So we're talking about a faster build, faster deployment, so we can get it out to market. And again, we focus on skills that we already possess. Okay. So let's understand what we're dealing with compared to zero coding versus a full stack building environment. Now, again, I come from the IT perspective of things. So when we look at zero code, we're looking at very minimal steps. You have a platform. That platform allows you to do many things. Okay, write articles, create your NFTs, so on and so forth. Things that allow you to market. Okay, and that way you can focus on sales and traffic. Now, when we go to full stack building, there is a lot of things going on. Okay, you have to build your own platform. You have to figure out your servers. Then you have to build it. Then you have to check it. And once it's good to go, then you can deploy it. Then you can kind of focus on marketing and sales. Depending on your team size, you can actually do this in parallel as you build out. Yeah. So let's get a little bit more deeper into the idea of full stack a bit. Okay. Um, I'll keep it very simple, especially for the audience, if they're not aware of like what does it take to build something in Web3, specifically like let's say an NFT storefront. Okay, in this example for today's episode, one of the things we have to understand is when you start building something full stack, you kind of require team members to have knowledge or experience in a few things. So let's start with smart contract code. Okay, you'd have to have a team member to actually understand how smart contracts work. Now, depending on what blockchain that you choose, not all smart contracts are written in the same language. For example, if you are going to do a smart contract in Ethereum, a team member would have to understand Solidity coding. Okay, and thankfully there's a lot of articles, a lot of blogs, a lot of tutorials out there on the internet. However, it does require some time to learn. Okay, now if you're doing it in Solana, you have to understand Cargo and Rust. Okay, that's another smart contract language as well. And of course, let's say if you're working with other blockchains such as EOS, you'd have to understand smart contract writing in C++. So there's many languages out there that you kind of need to consider. Okay, again, when we go through this episode, we're talking about a checklist determining what is the right blockchain and a few other things. Yeah. Now let's talk about website code. Now, in the early 90s, HTML was the hottest thing. Next came out with Java, and then a whole bunch of design languages like CSS and so on and so forth. Now it has expanded to several frameworks out there and not just HTML, CSS. Okay. Now we have frameworks that work with blockchain. Usually it's the JavaScript framework such as React, Vue.js, Angular, so on and so forth. Okay. But it's the idea now that another team member or you as an individual would have to understand these languages as well. Not on top of just the front end code, you'd have to understand the connection logic. Usually this is where we start talking about MetaMask, okay? And that MetaMask is your connection to the blockchain most of the time, depending on which blockchain that you choose. Okay, next we have server deployment, server hosting, and it's gotten a lot simpler nowadays, especially with certain platforms such as GitHub, Bitbucket, things like that. You can actually put your code inside a repository, which holds your code, and then point that repository to sites like Netlify, Fleet.io, and deploy it there. Okay, so a little bit simple, a little bit more complicated though, but most users don't understand this. Okay, now if you want to get even more advanced, you have web hosting servers that provide many other services such as DigitalOcean, Bluehost, GoDaddy, and AWS. The point that I'm trying to make here is that when we're looking at a full stack development, we have to have team members, or you as an individual would have to have this type of knowledge to build something like a complex NFT storefront. Yeah, because we have to consider, let's say, security for the servers, security for the website, security for the smart contract, and it gets full blown. It scales exponentially in terms of full stack, that this project becomes big. And because it's scaling, the project build time it's no longer going to take weeks. Sometimes it takes months just to refine it so that way everything is secure enough, right? On top of security, you have to understand functionality. Okay, one of the core principles, especially when you start building out websites along with blockchain, is the idea that okay, you have security, but because you're dealing with blockchain, something has to connect out to the blockchain. So you kind of have to find the balance between security and functionality, because if there's too much security, your website's not going to function, especially if you deal with blockchain. So there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of skills that a person would need to know just to build something in a full stack way. And most people do not have this sort of skill. Most users, are very simple. They understand plug and play. Okay. So now let's go to zero coding. Now, zero coding makes way more sense in the full scope of things, because we're taking what a user already knows, okay, and then basically refining it down to, again, we're talking about this user wants to create a NFT storefront. So in this case, all they have to focus, or all a user or a small team has to focus on is, let's say, the content and the product, choosing the platform, and the platform taking care of smart contracts, connection logic, website code, server deployment, and payment accepted. Now we move down towards marketing. That's another key thing that a lot of teams need to focus on as well. Depending on how you market, you can do blogs, you can do social media, so on and so forth. These are just very few examples, but I think a lot of us understand what's going on here. So that way, when we look at a normal day marketing funnel, when we market, we want to go to uh, leads to conversions down to sales, and we want to make that money. In this case, it's going to be in cryptocurrency. Okay. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about that coming up soon. But versus full stack building, zero coding, when you look at it, it's a lot easier to the eye. People can understand why a person would want to consider a zero code platform. Okay. Because now we start to see that you as the individual, you as the company, or you as a small team can focus on the essentials, which is the key here. We don't have to focus on the technicals. Okay. So let's move on. So now let's begin the build out process. So I want to walk you through this. Okay. Now, again, everything here is a made up example. Okay. I've already done some of the legwork here to kind of just speed things up for today's show. So let's say, for example, what is your product? You are an individual. You have a product that you want to tokenize in blockchain. Okay. So for today's show, we're going to do 3D virtual landscapes. Okay. That is your product. Now, what can I also provide as the product? If, let's say, someone buys my NFT, I can actually provide them the actual file upon buying an NFT. Okay. One of the things that I do require for a storefront, that my work can be tokenized as an NFT. That's going to be very important. And along with that, I don't want just to sell this landscape. I want people to experience it, meaning I want you to play it like a game. So I'm going to provide that metaverse experience for the user. So my objective right now, so we understand the product. My objective is I want to create a storefront, okay? Or specifically an NFT storefront. Okay, now we have to understand choosing the right blockchain and platform. So what blockchain and cryptocurrency is easier to work with and cash out? That's going to be very essential for this understanding of today's episode. Now, we also need to understand what platform allows you to focus on the essentials, okay? Just the essentials. And how do you want to market yourself or your product to make the sales? Now, again, I'm just providing very few examples for today's show. We can look at things like blogs, we can do social media, we can do videos and pics. We can also have backlinks if you want, but there's many more ways that we can drive traffic to, let's say, our storefront. But the idea here is, what platform allows all this that I want? Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so we have to understand which blockchain or which cryptocurrency we want to deal with so we can cash it out. which platform allows me to do all the things that I just mentioned in this slide. So let's move on. So let's understand the blockchain and cryptocurrencies, the idea of cashing out. Now, here in the Philippines, there's a lot of providers out there. I won't name them, but the idea is a lot of these providers will accept certain types of cryptocurrencies to cash you out into Philippine peso. Now, in terms of if you're in an international audience, of course, you also have to consider in your area of jurisdiction or where you live, what platforms in your area will cash you out in terms of cryptocurrency. So for example, let's use the Philippines as an example. Certain providers will accept Ethereum, some Solana, Polygon, and most providers here in the Philippines will accept stable coins. Okay, so that way you can cash it out. Okay, so the point of this slide is which cryptocurrency do you want to accept as payment as your when a person buys your NFT? Okay, so whether it be a stable coin or Ethereum, usually stable coins is the more preferred option, but some providers here, or most of all providers here, will accept Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies as well. Okay. Now, I've gone ahead and done some research, and I know there's many more zero code platforms out there, but pretty much I'm going to just leave it down to 4 for now, because we're going to look at 4 different examples. Okay. Now, the first one is called NFTify. Okay, it's on the Ethereum blockchain. It deals with layer 2 networks. We'll go through it in a few minutes. Okay. Everyone knows OpenSea. If you don't know what OpenSea is, it's basically this large NFT market. Okay. Next is Mintgate. Mintgate works on the Ethereum blockchain. It's not really heard of, but it does have something that it does have something in terms of analytics, marketing. And next is Holoplex, which is on the Solana blockchain. So each platform that I've just mentioned right now has potential. It has certain criteria that I'm looking for, but we're going to look through them kind of like on a one-to-one basis really quickly, okay, and kind of determine which platform works to my advantage, because I am an individual. I'm either a small team or a small business. So I need something that matches or closely matches my criteria of how I want to market my NFT. So let's look at a very simple criteria list that I created. So the criteria that I'm looking for a platform is, does it have zero to minimal coding? Is it a plug and play understanding? Okay. Do I have to write additional code, or can I just type in whatever in the platform takes care of it? Do I have the ability to share a link? Is there a metric involved in this platform so I can track or get some insights on who kind of viewed my page? Are there any reports that I can look up? Are there metrics that I can see? Because I do want to see this, because this is all part of marketing. Next, again, for today's episode, the product is 3D landscapes. So it could involve images, it could involve music, it can involve 3D, it can involve videos, so on and so forth. Because there's other, let's say, file types, assets that I want to provide on my NFT storefront, not just the 3D landscape itself, not just the picture itself, not just the 3D file. There could be a whole bunch of other assets I want to sell. Yeah. Next, can I customize the website? Okay. Now, customization is going to be very, well, depending on who you are as a person or a team or a company. Customization is going to be very key, especially for the look and feel, because everyone goes into branding a lot, and they want it to be very specific, down to the font, down to the color type. Okay, but can I customize? Can I customize my layout? And last but not least, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it's the idea of what cryptos does it accept for payment? Because if I'm here in the Philippines and um, I know Ethereum can be cashed out to Philippine peso, then of course I want to accept Ethereum. Or if I want to accept stablecoin, because that too can be cashed out. So these are things that you kind of need to consider. But here it is. This is the platform criteria. Okay. Yours will be a little bit different, but this is something that you can start you off with. Now, let's do a platform checklist before the break. So here we go. We have NFTFI, we have OpenSea, we have Mintgate, and we have Holoplex. Now, what I'm going to show you is basically sort of like a testnet example. So what you're going to see on your screen is something that I've created on testnet, okay, or unpublished, basically. So let's start with Holoplex, because Holoplex isn't really the best way to go about things, okay? So I created this, this is on testnet. I call it the Sliderverse, okay? So now, when it comes to Holoplex, what it does is that, yes, it is plug and play. I can create a store, and basically I can start minting my NFTs. Okay, so again, this is all testnet. Okay, now when we look at my little criteria list, zero to minimal coding, for me, yes, okay, because all I have to do is to connect my wallet, set up the store, and start minting. I can browse my files, start minting, so on and so forth. Okay. But here's the thing though, there's a few limitations to this. Yes, I can change certain parts of the layout, but that only includes, let's say, the logo up here and my banner image that doesn't want to show up. Okay. I can share my minted NFTs after I mint them to Twitter, which kind of just slows things down because maybe I have other social media groups that I want to share my NFT with. Okay, so it's not really there. There's no SEO analytic marketing type of dashboard that I can see. So Holoplex wouldn't be one of my best wouldn't be my best platform. So we'll move on. So again, I created another one. Again, this is all testnet. I created another one. It's called Sliderverse. Now, Sliderverse is on the Ethereum block, uses the Ethereum blockchain. Sorry. Okay. And one of the things about Mintgate is simply the fact that it's like another NFT. It's another NFT storefront. But there's a few things in here that I kind of do like. You can edit. Sorry. You can edit your theme, things like that. So there's some customization. I like that. All right. So we're getting there. Okay. The only problem, though, is it's very limited in their. It's very limited in terms of SEO. I can attach, let's say, some kind of analytics to it if it shows up. Okay, internet's a bit slow. Okay, yeah, it's a bit slow today. But anyway, one of the things about Mintgate that I may not like is the fact that in terms of, let's say, SEO, even sharing to Facebook or Twitter or any social media, that concept is really not there. Yeah. But it does support a lot of the media formats. But the thing is, I want to market. That's the idea. I want to market. Okay. Then, of course, we have sites like OpenSea and NFTFI. Now, the thing about OpenSea is that it's purely a storefront. There's certain forms of analytics, but it's only within the platform of OpenSea. But I get to share my work on Facebook, on Twitter, and I can also copy the link and then share it on other social media channels, other blog sites, so on and so forth. I can share the link. Okay, so this is actually doable, but not quite, because I still need that marketing aspect outside the platform. And we're going to get into that a bit later after the break. So with that being said, when we come back, we'll finish up with NFTFI and why we chose that. Okay, so I'll see you guys after the break. Welcome back. I am Joseph Sylvester, and you're still watching No Code Barrier Get Started Today with Blockchain. The new channel is an online alternative new media platform of online shows for people on the go. Please share it to your friends and family and watch all our shows as seen on screen. TNC aims to transform the lives of our viewers through engaging, authentic, and original content. Our channel is a responsible, global 24/7 platform that showcases Filipino talent, global influencers, cultural intelligence, and ingenuity. Imagine having your own show, your own playlist, your own content, but we make it easier for you. You can catch Crypto Chic episodes every other Saturdays at 1:30 p.m. You can watch live or on replay via Facebook or YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search hashtag TNC Now. For sponsorships or other inquiries, please email now@thenewchannel.com or send us a direct message. Enjoy these life-changing shows because we made them for you. All right, and we're back. All right, so if we can go ahead and share my screen once again. All right, so now we're on our last part of the checklist, okay? So now we look at NFTify. Again, I'm gonna share my screen, and what you see basically is more of a test net, so don't think like it's I'm sharing something secure here. I can always change it later, okay? So I've already done the review on NFTify, and one of the things that I like about it is the fact that it offers as close to what I'm looking for when I want a platform that allows me to market, allows me to create my NFTs, so on and so forth. Most importantly, what you're about to see is basically some of the analytics involved and a lot of the customization. Okay. So when we talk about NFTify, what we can do here is a lot of things. I can set up my own personal, I can connect, let's say, my domain to NFTify. I don't have to use a subdomain. Okay. I can see my sell orders. I can basically accept any cryptocurrency. Now, here's the thing, though, which I'll go into the last slide, is that um, major cryptocurrencies can be accepted here, but it has to go through an approval process. But in terms of Ethereum and stablecoins, I'm good to go. This for me, this is fine. If I can off the bat by default, if it allows me to accept Ethereum payments, USDC, which is basically a stablecoin, or Tether, I'm good to go. For me, this is fine. However, we can go a little bit further and say if I create my own cryptocurrency, let's say Slycoin, I'd have to go through their approval process, so that way people can purchase my NFTs or my products using Slycoin. Okay. Other things, I can create blogs, which is really great. I can adjust the themes. So again, this is an unpublished work. So basically, I can do a lot of things here. I can change this is the footer. I can change this. I can put my blogs in, all my collections, give it names, put a category here, so on and so forth. There's a lot of customization here. Okay. On top of that, other than customization, this would be the closest thing, at least for today's show and for today's example, that would say, okay, this fits what I want as an individual to market myself. Okay. One of the other things is the marketing aspect. Sorry, was it revenue? Is the fact that I can connect this basically to an analytics here. I think it's marketing in general. Okay, it probably was in settings. But basically, I can set it up so that way I can see certain, let's say, analytics in terms of SEO and things like that. It's actually somewhere around here. I forgot where it is, but it's there. But point is, let's say as a user, okay, this platform matches what I want. This matches my criteria. Again, there's many more out there, but for today's show, we'll just use these examples for now. Okay, now, of course, I won't get too heavily involved with the idea of marketing basics, but everybody knows when you need to market some stuff out, you need to track your metrics. You know, you have to drive traffic to your site, track metrics, SEO optimization. That way we can see, people coming in, what's our conversion rate, sales, so on and so forth, all that marketing stuff. Okay. Now, let's talk about driving traffic basics difficulty. Now, again, we are using NFTify as the platform. So now we can kind of see the metrics involved in terms of the traffic. So we'll probably use blogs. That's going to be a little bit SEO intensive, but at least that platform supports it. So that way, when we type in SEO optimized headers, titles, descriptions, words that we need to use, so that way when users do a Google search, hopefully our NFT store comes up first on a Google search. That's the idea. Okay, we can talk about reviews, tutorials, testimonials. We can do some backlink, whatever, things that are usually involved in a blog. Next up is the social media part. So of course, you want to drive traffic. Most people use social media, videos, pics, what have you. The third component, again, we are dealing with the product of 3D virtual landscapes. Okay, so we want to have a metaverse component here. So we're going to talk about that in the later slides. But these are the three components that, let's say for today's show, is my example of how I'm going to drive traffic, how to attract, things like that. So now we have completed our checklist. Okay, we have our platform. We're going to use NFTify. What's our product? It's a customized 3D art landscape. Crypto is being used, so we discussed Ethereum and stable coins. I can easily cash them out here in the Philippines. Okay, so I want to build an NFT storefront. Okay, in my platform, I want to have the ability to write blogs, articles. There's certain categories of my NFTs, not just 3D art landscapes. When I start to scale this thing, I can go into other categories as well, and I can also scale it to other products, not just 3D renders. I can actually go to, let's say, a soundtrack, which is kind of heavy in games nowadays, where people, when they create, let's say, a game world or a 3D world, they want to put some kind of ambiance type of music to it to kind of set the theme, and they want to sell that music. Yeah, and of course we have the highlights. So these are certain site components that I need. Okay, what about traffic generation? Okay, so we know we can share the link to social media. We can share the link through our blogs, and we also have the metaverse component. So everything's all set. We have our checklist. We're good to go. So now let's start building. So now let's start. Since we have our checklist done, we kind of have to start kind of framing out, the whole build process. So what is our project's ecosystem? So everything that I've said, I've pretty much diagrammed it out. But we also have to look at the time component now. Keep in mind that we are using a zero code platform. Okay, and that zero code platform is in Web3. So now, because we're using a zero code platform, instead of what would take months or even weeks rather, when we have a zero code platform, we're looking at focusing again on the essentials. Social media, let's say you have to create your social media accounts, you have to create your content for them. Probably the build out week, let's say pre-launch or post-launch, 1 to 2 weeks worth of work just to provide some sort of content. Not bad. Okay, let's look at, let's say, a blog post, for example. Maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Again, you have to write articles, you have to do SEO optimization, things like that. Maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Maybe a total of, if you're hardcore, maybe 12 articles, 12 something. Okay, it doesn't matter. But the point is, you have your blog component as well, and you have several blogs, several articles. Last but not least is that you have the metaverse component. Now, I've already built out. I already built out something for today's show. It did take me a couple of hours to do it. However, those couple of hours was basically a week. It's like 2 hours per day just to build it out. But I've already built it out. Okay, so in reality, let's say if you are doing 3D virtual landscapes, probably it's not going to take you a couple of hours. It's going to really take you like some serious hours per day. So build out time for one 3D landscape would, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. Okay, so this is basically our project ecosystem. So when we look at everything here, okay, now let's look at it as an individual. Okay, you're going to be doing all this as an individual. If you add up the numbers, so let's say max is 2 weeks for social media, 2 weeks for the blogs, then 3 weeks, we're talking of a total of 4 plus 3, 7 weeks total, okay, as an individual. Now, if you're working with a smaller team, probably the time frame would be a lot less. Instead of 7 weeks, probably you can do it in 4 weeks, because why? You're focusing on the essentials. Okay, so now that build time, which could take weeks, in this case 7 weeks as an individual working with, let's say, a team of maybe 2 or 3, you can shorten it down to, let's say, 4 weeks. Okay, now that being said, let's talk about the metaverse component for a bit, and why it might take a long time. So again, we're using the idea of a metaverse concept here, 3D virtual landscape, and I want people to immerse themselves in this 3D virtual landscape. I'm not selling you a picture. I'm not selling you a 3D file. I want you to actually use this. So for today, we're going to talk about a little bit about metaverse, that component. So a metaverse, it's a way for users to get a full view on what you are selling. That's not the definition of metaverse. Actually, that's what I want people. I want to use the metaverse component for people to immerse themselves in my art, let's say. Okay. And the metaverse is the best way to do it. Okay. Because they get to experience and interact with the art. Now, there's a lot of software out there in terms of metaverse creation. Okay. Again, we're going back to the idea of platforms, which is basically plug and play and uses known knowledge of the user. Now, creating a metaverse does require some kind of skill. Okay. It does require users to kind of learn a little bit about, let's say, gaming engines. Now, we have 2 examples out here, and there's many more out there, of course. We have Core and we have NVIDIA Omniverse. Today for today's episode, I've done a 3D virtual landscape on Core because to me it's a lot easier. It's less resource intensive on my computer versus NVIDIA Omniverse, which does take up a lot of resources. So I've already prepared a metaverse, okay, for today's show using Core. Yeah, I'll show you in a bit. Okay, so let me just share this. Now, when we talk about, let's say, the metaverse component, right? The metaverse component here basically is like, this entire scene took me a couple of hours to build. However, I can refine it more before I can put it out to market. But the idea is it's going to take time. But this is the landscape that I kind of built. It's not exactly Banawe. That was my original intent. But the point here is that it's something magical. It's 3D, and the thing is, if I want people to immerse themselves in it, I can. Once they buy the NFT, basically people can. Give me a second here. People can actually roam around using an avatar. You know, that's the idea that I want to sell to the audience or to whoever's going to buy my NFT, is that you buy the landscape, you get to interact with it, you get to live in it, something like that. Okay. I'll stop this. Okay, so that's kind of the metaverse component. Okay, so now everyone understands what I mean by the metaverse component. Okay, that let's say I'm selling 3D virtual landscapes. I sell the NFT, but at the same time, you get to play in it once you buy it. That's the concept that I'm selling. Yeah. Okay, now with everything that was being mentioned today, okay, in terms of zero coding versus full stack, payments, acceptance of cryptocurrencies, how to market, let's say, which platform allows you to market better, you know, not all platforms or zero coding platforms will work for someone, or a team or a company or whatever. You kind of have to explore around. However, for today's episode, I kind of did the legwork for the audience today, and determine whether or not this platform is something that you are willing to work with long term, because what's happening nowadays, especially in 2022 moving forward, we have a lot of platforms entering the space, zero coding platforms entering the space for Web3. It's no longer just website builders. Like I mentioned in my previous slides in the beginning of this show, we actually have website builders now for Web3, or what I call zero code platforms for Web3. Um, one of the things is why I like NFTify, and I know there's a lot more out there, is that it allows me, in terms of my criteria list, to work with what I want and need to get done to market my NFT. Yeah. So again, um, in terms of determining if this is going to work, you got to try out several other platforms out there. I've just named a few, but now at least you kind of can hone in on which platform that says, hey, this is great, but is there anything similar to this platform that does it a little bit better? So you kind of have to figure out which platform works for you in terms of working along with it in the long run. One of the things a lot of companies focus on is a lot of the metrics part. No one wants to set up a website, leave it hanging, and don't, you're just wasting your time. A lot of individuals who are very adamant about, NFTs, marketing, sales, they want to see metrics. Okay. Um, Now, the other thing that I kind of did not cover is the idea is, okay, what if it's not 3D virtual landscapes? What if you're doing some other product that you want to do on Web3 using a zero code platform? You kind of have to ask yourself, is there already interest in it? What are my competitors' market size? All these type of research items that you kind of have to understand. But if you are adamant about, let's say, this particular product that you do and you want to tokenize as an NFT, then so be it. You just kind of have to figure out how to get people to go to your site to buy your NFT. Now, one of the things I do want to cover is the idea of the benefits in zero code, especially for Web3. As I've emphasized many times, people get to focus on the essentials, okay? Marketing, creating and refining the product, and community building, usually through social media nowadays. You can utilize cryptocurrencies as an alternative means of income, okay? You have faster build times and deployments, okay? Zero coding platforms already takes what you know. It's very beginner friendly, and you can add additional components as you go along. But like I said, not all platforms can provide everything for you. Sometimes they get very close. Like in today's episode, I was using NFTify, and some platforms give you half and half. It gives you half of what you want, and half they don't provide it. Okay. So again, it's the idea of exploring around, knowing what works and matches closely to the criteria you're looking for. So let's talk about disadvantages of zero code in Web3. Okay, now, coming from the IT side of things, right, and the blockchain side of things, when we look at zero code platforms, zero code platforms also have to make money as well. So what tends to happen is there's a trade-off. So for example, let's say NFTify or Holoplex or Mintgate, so on and so forth. They have to make money to, to run their site basically. So of course, most of the times, a lot of these zero code platforms say, hey, you can use our site for free. We'll even provide lazy minting, but because we're hosting the website for you, we would like a percentage of your sales. So what do? It's already locked in that, let's say, any type of royalty share or any type of primary sale has already like a 2% sales fee that goes to the platform. So then you'd have to think to yourself, if that's the case, then I'd have to incorporate, I had to have to integrate the that 2% into the price. Okay. So that way you make up for the 2% loss. That goes back to the platform. So you have to keep that in mind. Also, other things. you're not fully in control, such as themes, colors, and fonts. Sometimes a lot of these zero code platforms, they provide a lot of customization layouts. But if you're really keen to your branding style or your marketing style, sometimes the themes that they provide don't work. Even the color schemes don't even work, at least in terms of the branding sense. Then, of course, your fonts. Also, sometimes just because NFTFI does provide SEO optimization, it's actually a lot limited. Maybe there's some type of code happening in the back end that you don't see. For example, if you are already into SEO and you've been doing it for years, you know certain keywords to search for. But how does that keyword look like on a Google search? Even if you optimized, let's say, the headers of, let's say, your blog, you know, because my tool says that it should show up, let's say, somewhere on the first page on a Google search, but it doesn't. Maybe there's hidden code that you don't see running in the background. So uh, even though it might say it you can use SEO and all that stuff, and it's gonna provide better search results for people looking for NFTs. Again, it could be limited to certain aspects. You don't know. But of course, try out the platform, see what happens. May not support the crypto that you want. For example, if you deal with Holoplex, you can only accept Solana as payment. So if anybody buys your NFT, it's only Solana. At least OpenSea, you can set it to whatever a cryptocurrency, stablecoin, Polygon, Ethereum, so on and so forth. Mintgate, same thing. NFTFI, same thing. You can accept pretty much any cryptocurrency. However, keep in mind, let's look at NFTFI, for example. Other than what was already listed, let's say if I want to do my own custom token, Slycoin, I have to go through their approval process. So again, I don't have full control over my own site. But in terms of what they offer, it will work. Okay. So that's what I mean by may not support the crypto that you want. Last but not least, from an IT perspective, because you are providing full authority for this platform, so to speak, to kind of like handle how your website looks. What happens if it goes down? Okay. Now, if the site goes down, the project is gone, it's done for, all your hard work is lost. Who knows? But that's another thing that you also have to consider. What if, let's say, NFTify goes down? What if Holoplex goes down? And so on and so forth. All these other zero coding platforms. So we have to look also at the disadvantages as well. Okay, so now we understand zero coding platforms. Today I use 3D landscapes as an example. Okay, we went through the checklist. We understand zero code versus full stack. But now with the idea of zero code, what we learned today, basically now we have a template on how to apply it to other industries. So whether you're an individual, a small team, small business, whatever, zero code platforms does make it easier for you to build and market out, especially in the blockchain or Web3 space. Okay, now we can also look at other industries. You can look at automotives. It was already mentioned in one of the Crypto Chic episodes that, when we apply, let's say, tokenization to cars, it can be done. You can also do a metaverse with cars so that people can actually, test it out on the metaverse. So automotives is a really good example here. Maybe pharmaceuticals, if you want to go that route. Retail, guaranteed retail is good for zero code. E-commerce, same concept of retail. And there's much more other industries that you can take what you just learned today and apply it there. Okay. So with that being said, my name is Joseph Sylvester, and that is my time today, guys. Thank you so much for being here for today's episode, and we'll see you next time on TNC. Okay. So bye, guys.